Everybody, it's Jason with Parallel Reality coming back with here today with an article from the Daily Wire dated December 9th, and we'll file this under, well, duh, we already kind of knew this even without it being officially reported, but the New York Times says Hamas records taken by Israel show the UNRWA's top school administrators were also were Hamas terrorists. Well, no bleeping poop. We kind of figured that out. Almost all of the Hamas-linked educators, according to the records, were fighters in the Qassam brigades. So, wondering why things aren't as good as they should be over there, why things aren't turning around for the Palestinians? Well, here's a big reason. It says documents shared with the New York Times impelled the media outlet to admit that senior staff at UNRWA schools doubled as members of Hamas's military wing. The agency, which employs roughly 13,000 people, including thousands in the schools, has a duty to maintain the neutrality of its facilities in the conflict zones in which it operates, including by keeping militants off its premises and payrolls, the Times reported. Well, that sounds about right, that they should be neutral, and they are obviously not. It says, but, as shown by the detailed records kept by the Qassam brigades, and thank you for keeping detailed records, guys, the Hamas's military wing that were seized by Israel, at least 24 people employed by the anti-Israel UN Relief and Works Agency, or UNRWA, and their schools were members of Hamas or Islamic Jihad. The majority were top administrators at the schools, principals or deputy principals, and the rest were school counselors and teachers, the documents say, the Times reported. Almost all of the Hamas-linked educators, according to the records, were fighters in the Qassam brigades. That could be a problem. It says names and identification numbers listed on the seized documents match those in a separate UNRWA database, the Times reported. The documents also list two schools in particular that were used as readouts where fighters could hide and stash weapons in a conflict. In several cases, educators remained employed with UNRWA even after Israel had provided them written warnings that they were militants. Residents of Gaza said in interviews that the idea that Hamas had operatives in UNRWA schools was an open secret. Yeah. So it's like everybody's saying this is a thing, and yet you have probably the leftists in this country going, no, that can't possibly be true. Meanwhile, the actual Gazans themselves are like, oh yeah, it's totally happening, and we know it is. Like everybody knows. It says, the UN seems intent on portraying this problem as a few bad apples, rather than acknowledging that the tree is rotten, Deputy Director General for the UN and for UN and international organizations, Amir Weisbrod, declared. As Hamas officials have said that at least 100 UNRWA workers were alleged Hamas militants. The UN has been unable or unwilling to eliminate Hamas militants and their supporters, as well as those from other terrorist groups from their ranks, said James Lindsay, not that James Lindsay, UNRWA's general counsel until 2007. UNRWA hiring practices and the makeup of the labor pool from which UNRWA draws its employees suggest to me that the numbers the Israelis are talking about are probably pretty close to the truth. As in January 2018, the Trump administration confirmed earlier reports that it would withhold $65 million from UNRWA. As part of his report to the House Committee on Foreign Affairs, Hillel Neuer, executive director of the United Nations Watch, stated, as we have shown in numerous reports over the past decade, teachers in schools at the UN Relief and Works Agency, which runs education and social services for Palestinians, regularly call to murder Jews and create teaching materials that glorify terrorism, encourage martyrdom, demonize Israelis, and incite anti-Semitism. Neuer posted on a thread on X in January that he said, expose a Telegram chat group of 3,000 UNRWA teachers that is replete with messages, photos, and videos celebrating the Hamas massacre of October 7th. So all good people, which I say very facetiously. Says UNRWA's funds have helped to train terrorists for ISIS. So why does this organization exist? It says the documentary, The UNRWA Road to Terror, Palestinian Classroom Incitement, shows children as young as 7 in schools run by the United Nations Relief and Works Agency expressing support for terrorism. One clip shows a 13-year-old Palestinian student chanting, with Allah's help, I will fight for ISIS, the Islamic State, Fox News reported in 2016. So yeah, defund the UN, which would be defunding all the rest of this, UNRWA and stuff like that, but just, yeah, get out of it, because these are bad people doing bad things, and they support terrorism. Simple as that. So let me know what you think about this in the comments below. Please like, share, subscribe, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.